what in the is going on? Pretty much that's Hideo Kojima's forte. He's bombastic and relishes in it. Yet, he has a brain, one far bigger than regular folks like mine. Comparisons of his work to Michael Bay are made, and rightfully so. The man has even used Bay's regular composer, Harry Gregson Williams, while cutting to military porn shots. He's overt, silly, but when he wants to hit the emotional beats, he completely nails them. Metal Gear Solid was not just technically groundbreaking, but it also came during an era when over-the-top elements were the norm.
You're fired.
So, he took it a step further than anyone else. Before Rian Johnson became a verve for unsuccessfully subverting expectations, Hideo Kojima was the king troll of the gaming world.
今度どうしようかっていう話があって、その時に美少年を出そうっていうのが出てきたんですけど、監督が美少年やって言ってなんか最初冗談かなと思ったんです。
Yet, there was intentionality, care, and purpose to his subversions.
I think I was only 6 when I held my first AK, but I'm not even sure of that.
Unlike The Last Jedi, where its tone and plot are mishandled, the length of a video game allows Kojima to explore his absurdities by presenting an elongated yet fascinating lecture on nuclear deterrence, politics, and the dangers of AI.
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths.
Video games are an overlooked storytelling medium that can contain the complexity of a book or TV show, depending on the length of the game. After the Konami fallout, Kojima's first project was a game that captured our curiosity. What in the hell is going on in this trailer? We couldn't wait for the answers. Shortly before the game's release, in gaming time, people were shown the gameplay reveal footage. Everyone anticipated Death Stranding would be a walking simulator, and, indeed, it was. The first time I played Death Stranding, I spent 8 to 10 hours in total walking from point A to point B. I should also note that despite being a die-hard Kojima fan, I couldn't validate spending money on a game with mixed reception. It's not like a cheap movie ticket, which aren't cheap these days anymore anyways. A video game was a $60 gamble that's now inflated to a $69 gamble, plus tax. The more I saw of the game, the less excited I was. When the game first popped up on PlayStation Plus for free, I gave it a chance. After being stuck because I couldn't figure out which private locker I left a package in that would have advanced me further through the story,
you may select partial delivery to submit required cargo currently in your possession and return with the remainder when convenient.
I spent 8 hours making standard deliveries, then vented online about why I was stuck.
How do you that up? How do you that up?
After I re-downloaded the game following my rage quit, I finally found my story item in a stored locker. However, I couldn't recall which locker it was in, as I couldn't find any information on the world map that indicated which locker contained what item. Perhaps I should have used a computer instead of my phone to Google the answer, which, oddly, isn't given on an official site. Kojima games don't tell you everything gameplay-wise. It's up to the player to discover the game's many secrets. Secondly, his games are loaded with cutscenes. He's not David Cage. It's not a QTE fest combined with a cliche-ridden script. The mechanics in the gameplay are deep. So deep that, in fact, longtime Metal Gear fans were offended when MGS5 was reliant on gameplay over story being included. Although we know the story wasn't completed, the gameplay in the game itself was solid. The Metal Gear series is loaded with so many little unknown trinkets that to this day, people still find Easter eggs within the games. Initially playing Death Stranding, I felt like it was a limitation of the Phantom Pain, which, why take away all the fun elements just to insert brief stealth elements? That's a question that stands out even more when Kojima's next project is an action espionage game.
全く新しいオリジナルの IP になります。新世代のアクションエスピオナージゲームです。
All the most entertaining elements in Death Stranding 1 and 2 are when it plays the most like the Phantom Pain. When terrorists invade a camp and you need to retrieve items from there, the game feels like a watered-down Metal Gear, which is more fun than hiking through miles upon miles of land to do never-ending fetch quests. When Death Stranding 2 got raved reviews, I decided to give Death Stranding another chance. This time around, I actually liked it. Death Stranding is an acquired taste. Kojima followed up one of the most lauded video game franchises with an anti-video game. What do I mean by that? Death Stranding takes all the elements from open world games and makes the player experience what it's like to actually travel across great distances. It's not easy. You can't just ride a horse or a car up mountains. Every rock, waterfall, drop of rain, and slippery slope must be traveled across carefully. Without trepidation, your packages will get trashed. It's not about the destination, but rather the journey. Kojima is examining what makes video games fun, and decides to focus solely on one aspect of the open world games in a way that nobody else has conceived of, or at least with this big of a budget of a game. When you finally accept the gameplay loop that Kojima has given you, you may begin to embrace it. There's something very calming about just walking while enjoying the incredible vistas. Usually, I'd fire up a podcast or some music on my phone and listen to that until one of Low Roar's tracks came on. Traveling isn't perfect, and thank God you can use vehicles, catapults, rocket boots, and zip lines to get to your destination. Many would argue that the use of faster travel options diminishes the impact of the slow grind that you must go through to get to each destination. Yet, I would like to argue that the games would be insufferable if I had to walk towards every single destination. And when you get to the snowy mountains, it will test your patience to the limit. Do yourself a favor. If you own Death Stranding 2, get the stabilizer level 3 base jumping boots, or whatever it's called. The experience of the game overall is very calming, until you drop your cargo.
Did you just drop some cargo, Sam?
Yes, it's tedious, but also highly rewarding. There's a real sense of accomplishment in delivering goods to someone who's in desperate need of them, especially when you spend 30 minutes walking to get there. It's far more rewarding than other games, where you just get another gun for killing another guy, or you get boring upgrades for your character. Yes, there are upgrades for Sam's gear, yet the progression feels natural. Kojima is aware that the player needs a reward for their extremely long trek across continents. What better way to reward the player than gorging them with cutscenes, along with stunning scripted moments and boss fights. As stated before, one major issue longtime Metal Gear fans took with the Phantom Pain was its lack of a long narrative. Death Stranding strikes a balance between gameplay and story that Metal Gear Solid 5 lacked, while incorporating lengthy cutscenes between large gameplay segments. If you thought the Patriots were confusing with the Metal Gear Solid story, wait until you see the absolute convolution that is Death Stranding.
And then Hideo will go, okay, pick up the baby doll and cry. And you're like, what about? And he's like, and you cry because the strand of the you're like, I don't know what any of that means. I'm very sorry. I trust you, but I don't know what that means. And then he's like, look up, a whale.
Puzzling would be a very subtle way to put it. How could I summarize these stories? I'll try it to the best of my ability, but please don't blame me for any mistakes that I may make with the details. The world has faced a cataclysmic event, with the United States in shambles. In Game 1, Sam Porter Bridges, played by Norman Reedus, must utilize the chiral network, a type of magical connection that links delivery terminals to reconnect the nation. And then when you get to Game 2, Mexico and Australia. Along the way, Sam encounters various allies, enemies, and mysterious figures that enrich the journey with layered characters and backstories. And of course, silly on the nose names. If anyone else were to direct these games, it would be close to impossible for them to balance the tonality the way Kojima does.
Or to spell it out, Die Hardman's vessel. You can't possibly be serious.
Not all of the story works. There are large reveal moments that are far too melodramatic. Yes, there are moments of astonishing beauty, even if my brain isn't quite able to conceive of what I'm watching. Death Stranding is far from Metal Gear's expertise in narrative storytelling, yet those games were a product of their time. The late 90s and early 2000s still embraced over-the-top films, which had shifted to being slightly more grounded by the time Metal Gear Solid 4 was released, where some of Kojima's narrative wrinkles were beginning to show. In a way, Kojima's narrative elements are somewhat outdated.
Like Mario and Princess Peach.
Yet that's part of their charm. Hideo Kojima has been called the Quentin Tarantino of gaming, which is fair since Kojima does riff off of his favorite material, has long monologues, and switched up his proclivity from breasts to feet.
I actually remember they asked to scan underneath my feet.
Stop it.
Someone doesn't like shoes.
Unlike Tarantino's work, which is often simplistic and cool, Hideo Kojima's games dig way deeper. So deep, in fact, that Death Stranding 2 has an interactive dictionary you can pull up while in the middle of a cutscene in case you don't know what dooms, BTs, or extinction entities are. It's head-scratching, yet that's the point. You're meant to be engrossed in Kojima's world like you would be with a David Lynch film. Unlike Lynch, Kojima explains almost everything, and also explains very little. There are not plot holes in his material as much as there are mysteries left for the audience to figure out for themselves. It's a story that's worth multiple viewings to understand. Given that the second game is 80 hours long, which I spent my vacation time playing, I think I'll just cheat and watch the highlights on YouTube. However, nothing compares to playing the game itself on your PS5 or PC in full resolution, whether it's 1080p or 4K, especially if you have a surround sound system. The Death Stranding series is pacifistic. Looking back at the Metal Gear franchise, it's clear that Kojima doesn't believe in violence, as evidenced by the ability to use the tranquilizer gun to take out enemies, which was introduced in Metal Gear Solid 2, and Meryl Silverberg's assassination attempt in Metal Gear Solid 1, where she says,
"I was a fool. I wanted to be a soldier. But war is ugly. There's nothing glamorous about it."
Plus, Liquid Snake calls out his brother for subconsciously relishing in his bloodshed.
You enjoy all the killing. That's why.
What?
Are you denying it? Haven't you already killed most of my comrades?
Which is Kojima breaking the fourth wall, something he's very good at, by shaming the players for murdering hundreds of NPCs and, 5 bosses or something like that. After Kojima was unsanctimoniously fired from Konami, who went on to bastardize his work, remove his name from his games, and are now making reskins of his older games, Kojima sought to create a game about the power of peace and love in the face of enormous adversity. all while you have fun shooting terrorists in the face. During a time when Hideo was ostracized and mistreated,
Mr. Kojima had every intention of being with us tonight, but unfortunately he was informed by a lawyer representing Konami just recently that he would not be allowed to travel to tonight's awards ceremony to accept any awards.
He didn't use that experience to channel his anger, but rather his hope. With so many fans coming to his support, he didn't let the incompletion of Metal Gear Solid 5 and Silent Hills get to him. With the help of Academy Award-winning filmmaker Guillermo del Toro, who was also one of the producers on Silent Hills, along with a platter of movie stars, Kojima made a polarizing yet fascinating game. When the second game was released, gamers were more lenient towards it, as they were familiar with the gameplay pattern. Also, it improved upon the first game's mechanics like any sequel should, further deepening the intricacies that lay hidden for players to discover. Death Stranding is admittedly not the funnest game, nor is it Kojima's best work, but it's still the vision of a fan who turned himself into an auteur. Something is fascinating about Die Hard Man as he reveals his presence by breaking into an obnoxious yet moving dance scene. Die Hard Man's dance is about love when surrounded by a world of despair. It's a celebration of life. Kojima embraces the things we are passionate about by giving Tommy Earl Jenkins, a long-established dancer and actor, a large musical number, or when Higgs Monaghan begins to sing with an electric guitar that can shoot flames and laser beams.
I'll stay with you by your side, close your tired eyes.
Troy Baker is not only a remarkably overlooked actor, but also an incredible singer who has a musical background. Kojima embraced everyone's passion for something, and incorporated it into his game. Death Stranding was released months before the COVID lockdowns. Suddenly, we were all reliable on our delivery folks to bring us food, toilet paper. If you're smart like me, you get a bidet. Be smart and get one before RFK unleashes the next pandemic. We needed people like Sam to keep us connected. Yes, it's an updated version of Kevin Costner's The Postman. Yet, its relevance, like that of Sons of Liberty, is coming from an artist who is once again ahead of his time. I'm not saying Kojima saw COVID coming. Still, by being well researched, he may have caught a glimpse of the early warnings.
Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this.
Predicting a universally crippling event, whether it be a pandemic, global warming, or nuclear war. One can call Death Stranding a UPS simulator, but what UPS guy carries a cartoonish amount of luggage up a hill, unless you're a Boca carrier in Japan? During a period of despair and rage, gamers could release their frustration with Doom Eternal while finding solace in Animal Crossing. Death Stranding had the weight and name of Kojima behind it, but still got lost in the mix. Yet, the fans kept on discovering the beauty of the game that had earned it enough money for an incredible sequel. Death Stranding is Hideo Kojima's most sentimental game, and it couldn't have come out at a better time. Whether the world was locked down with the first one, or the second game emerging at a time where division trumps compassion, countered by a game about empathy, kindness, and connection. Without connections to other players' ladders, zip lines, vehicles, and bridges, your journey across America, Mexico, and Australia would be unbearable. By liking and building other structures, you bring the world together in an environment surrounded by video games that are engulfed in violence and competition. Without compassion, community, or art, we can't grow as a society. Kojima can see the world becoming a divisive place where politics conquers human decency. Humanity will never fully get along. There will always be terrorists like Higgs, but the majority of the civilization does peacefully coexist. Yet, we forget that when so much animosity is spewed across the media through men who let power consume their empathy. When you reach the ending of Death Stranding 2, you'll be laughing, dumbfounded, yet touched. If you quit on Death Stranding like I did, I'd say give it another chance. Find some calming music and incorporate it like a meditative practice. Similar to a David Lynch film, as I stated earlier, it doesn't matter if you don't completely understand the story. Just enjoy the experience. Keep on keeping on, fellow and curious soon-to-be porters, and please, please, please have Tommy Earl Jenkins perform BB's theme at the next Video Game Awards or some public televised event.